Hi. So, in recent times, a lot of equality activists have claimed that we need to do more than just equality. They say that we need to do things like affirmative action, or safe spaces, or quotas. And what I see when I look at these actions is that these actions presume that the unpreferred ones have a sort of advantage through society and culture, and these advantages manifest themselves as privilege. Now, whenever one would compare data, one side often sweeps away all the data that contradicts them in the typical broad stroke that is often seen in non-falsifiable theories and statements such as religion and political dogma. But I don't want to talk about all these studies today here. I want to talk about something else. I want to look at this social justice with an logical, basic principle rather than an empirical approach. And the question that I want to ask is, can you tell me, or can anyone tell me, how many immigrants from poorer, less developed countries must be let into Western countries in order to make up for colonial and imperialism that supposedly inflicted these countries with this underdevelopment? How many black people or other people of color must be forced into executive positions and higher positions and colleges and so on and so forth against the normal recruiting process in order to make up for slavery or genocide? How much more must women be paid in order to make up for past pay inequalities, and for how long? Because this is the question that really troubles me about this entire debate, is that nobody asks whether these things can be quantified, whether they can be put into specific numbers. How can one measure guilt based upon race or gender or sexuality? How can one measure social injustice or cultural damage? And most importantly of all, can you really call social justice justice just because people say it is? Because when we look at court justice, the normal court of law, we have lawyers, we have judges, we have jury, we have laws, we have all these things. And when we look at social justice, we have clickbait journalists, we have media personalities, we have internet outrage, we have common opinion. And when you take away the human element of court justice, what is left are the laws, the written things, the system as it is defined and set on paper. You get an empty system, but you still have a system. When you take away social justice, what you are left with is nothing but a bunch of cheap slogans and Patreon pages. There is nothing left. It is devoid of any rationality. Social justice is not a system that is designed and set in stone in order to achieve a goal, in order to solve conflicts. It is designed to appease those with the loudest voices. And in the end, when you were capable of putting all these systems in place that make sure that everybody has exactly what they deserve based on their race and their sexuality and their gender and so on and so forth, and institutionalized power would be destroyed, the question is, would then not the environment change? Would racism not go away if everything runs according to plan? And if racism goes away, wouldn't the system have to be adjusted in order to make it fair again? Because then black people wouldn't earn less than white people because of racism, and women wouldn't earn less than men because of sexism, wouldn't you then have to take away these measures like affirmative action? And do you trust the people of the future, tomorrow's generations, enough to remove these measures? Because I don't trust anyone who benefits from a certain system, justly or unjustly, to have the mental capacity to realize that that system needs to go, that that system is no longer necessary. You are putting things in place that cannot be removed as easily. And the biggest problem with evening the scales is that in a social sense, in a cultural sense, it is impossible, because you cannot measure society, you cannot measure culture. So you can never see whether what you are about to do to even the scales will truly even the scales, and whether it evens the scales from everyone's perspective. And that is, in my opinion, the prime argument to be made against social justice movements, because they can never long-term succeed, because everything they do seem to just serve to appease one specific group in this particular moment and nothing more. It is not an equalization movement, it is an appeasement movement. And people can never be appeased. Many have tried and all have failed. So to enact social justice is to bring down the sword on the persons in order to make them a homogenized group, not based on their own determined organization and identification, but based upon your own political ideology. And that is what I find most troubling about this. I want to leave you with these words, and until next time, stay keen.